Welcome back to Andersen Acres. If you've ever spent any time around ducks, you know there's one thing for sure. They love water. Water, water, water. I mean, they really love it. Whether it's splashing in a kiddie pool or bobbing in a pond or sticking their heads under the hose stream, they just love water. Ducks and water go together like peanut butter and jelly. But here's the thing. It's not just a preference. It's not just that they like water or they even love water. That's not all there is to it. It's not just a nice to have. Access to a significant amount of water is a need for a duck. It's absolutely non-negotiable. Ducks need water. And I know we talk about water a lot when we talk about ducks, but sometimes we skip over the part where they need it. And they need more water, a larger quantity of it at a time than other animals might, because they have other things that they do with the water other than just drinking it. Okay, your chickens just drink the water, but your ducks use the water. So today we're doing a deep dive, pun intended, into why water is so essential for ducks, how a lack of access can harm their health, and how you can set up a water source that works for your ducks and for your homestead. No matter how small or makeshift your operation is, water is important. So let's start with the basics. Ducks aren't just semi-aquatic birds that look cute on a nature calendar. Water plays a huge role in their health and well-being. So it's important for cleanliness and feather health. Ducks have waterproof feathers thanks to an oil gland near the base of their tails. But that oil only works properly if they can bathe and preen regularly. Without access to water, ducks can't clean themselves. Their feathers get dirty and matted and they lose their waterproofing. That means they become vulnerable to the cold, vulnerable to the wet conditions, and even develop skin infections. They're not chickens. They can't clean themselves in the dirt behind me. They need water to get clean. Dirty feathers don't insulate very well. And that's a big deal, especially if you live in a colder climate like I do. So make sure they can get clean. But there's more to it than that. Having an appropriate amount of water for your ducks also helps prevent external parasites. This is often overlooked, but regular bathing helps ducks naturally keep parasites like lice and mites at bay. It's not foolproof, but ducks that have consistent access to water and are able to immerse their entire bodies are less likely to suffer infestations. Ducks kept dry for too long are much more likely to end up itchy, irritated, and in need of treatment. They also need water to eat without choking. So, to understand why, you have to understand just a little bit about duck anatomy. Ducks don't produce a lot of saliva. Okay, not like we do. Your mouth is always wet because you have saliva. I just had chicken poke me. Stop it. But they have not as much saliva as we do. We have lots. They don't have very much at all. So when they eat, especially dry food like their pellets or their grains, they need water to wash it down. If they're not given any water alongside their feed, they can choke. And yes, it's happened. Okay? The number of people who have lost ducks to choking because they weren't provided water while they ate is actually insane. Okay? Ducks should always have access to clean drinking water when they're eating. No exceptions. But again, there's still more. Why do ducks need water? There's another reason again. They have their eyes and their noses, okay? Their little nares. Eye and nasal health. This is important. You've got to keep your eyes and your nose healthy. Ducks are filter feeders, constantly poking their beaks into everything. Their nostrils and eyes can get clogged or irritated. Dunking their heads in water allows them to clean out their sinuses and their eyes. Without it, you're looking at gunky eyes, crusty nostrils, and a vet visit. It's unpleasant for them and for you. So how much water do ducks actually need? Well, this is where people start to worry. But I don't have a pond. I don't have a pool. I don't have space for a pool. That's actually okay. You don't need a pond to keep your ducks happy and healthy. But what you do need is access to water. Clean, fresh water that they can dip their heads in, and ideally their whole bodies, even if they can't actually swim in it. Being able to completely immerse themselves is incredibly important. They don't necessarily have to be able to swim in circles, but being able to splash that water over their entire bodies, down their necks, across their backs, that is what matters. So there are a few different water solutions that work for different homestead setups, and which one you pick really depends on your own situation, where you're located, things like that. The first one is what we do. We have a kiddie pool. Okay, you probably have seen it in videos where it's not actually that way, but it's a blue kiddie pool, the old classic. Cheap, easy to dump and refill, and big enough for a few ducks to paddle around. If you only have a small amount of ducks, a kiddie pool will keep them plenty happy. They'll just swim around. They can even swim in a kiddie pool if there aren't too many of them. So if you have like under 10 ducks, a standard kiddie pool is probably fine. Okay? And we only have that out in the summer because we're not having that much water in the winter. In the winter, we revert back to our smaller black rubber feed tubs, and we just fill them with water 4 times a day, and the birds get in that and get clean. So there are options. You can also use large stock tanks or horse feeders. Some people like to repurpose horse feed bins or low troughs. These are durable and can often hold enough water for a dip. Just make sure your ducks can get in and out easily. You might need to use bricks for steps or something so they don't get trapped. Because if the edges of your pond are flat and slippery, they might not be able to climb back out. You might be able to use a sink or a bathtub. If you have old sinks or old bathtubs in the bush, you can probably bury them and use them as a makeshift pond. Okay, you don't even necessarily have to bury them. I just like them buried. You don't have to. But these work pretty well. It's not elegant, but it gets the job done. Yeah, can't talk today. But it does get the job done. Ducks don't need to swim like swans. They're fine. They just need to bathe, dunk, and preen. So even if it's an old kitchen sink that you install in your barnyard and you fill it up with water, that's plenty good enough. As long as they can get in it and splash around a little bit, they'll be okay. You can also use shallow ponds or rain catchment ponds. If you're lucky enough to have an artificial pond, awesome. But putting in an actual pond, like, the maintenance is quite scary to some people. So if you're not ready for an actual pond, that's okay. Ponds need maintenance to avoid becoming stagnant or parasite heavy. But a well-managed pond is duck heaven. So while a pond might be the most ideal solution, it might not work for you, and that's okay. The part that matters as much as having access to water is keeping it clean. Ducks are messy. They'll splash mud and food and who knows what else into the water, and it gets gross. So that it's stagnant and it's mucky and it stinks, and the dirty water can carry bacteria and can lead to health issues. So you want to keep it clean. Change out bathing water daily. That's what we do with our kiddie pool. Dump it, refill it. Elevate your drinking waterers to try to keep mud and feet out of them. It don't work, but it's worth a shot. Add gravel and pavers under water areas to reduce mud buildup, so hopefully less mud is tracked in. So if you put pavers around the edge of your kiddie pool, at least when they go to get in, that's why ours is on cement, because that way when they go to get in, they're not constantly dragging mud in with them. And use 2 water areas, one for drinking, one for bathing. That way your ducks don't have to sip from their bathtub. So if you have a smaller waterer where they can just drink, and then they have another spot where they can go get wet, that's ideal. Not everyone can manage that, but it works well. Can your ducks live without water access? Well, technically, they have to have water for drinking and dunking their heads at a bare minimum or they'll die. But technically, can they exist where they don't get their whole bodies wet? Technically, yes. Ethically, no. There are reports of ducks kept dry, which means raised in wire-bottom cages or on dry lots without bathing options. But those ducks are not healthy. Don't kid yourself, they're not healthy. They suffer from poor feather quality, parasites, eye infections, and more. It's cruel. Just because a duck can survive doesn't mean it's okay. Ducks evolved to live in and around water. Their bodies need it, and their behavior depends on it. Depriving them of water is not just a disservice, it's neglect. So even if you're tight on space or time, there's got to be some way to make water access work. It might not be pretty and it might not get you on Instagram, but your ducks will still love it. They don't care if it can't go on Pinterest because it sucks a little bit. They don't care. If they can get wet, they're happy. So just let them get a little wet, okay? They'll be fine. So here at Andersen Acres, we've tried all sorts of water setups all of the time. Trust me, none of them are perfect forever. You're always going to get annoyed with one and look for a new solution. You'll adjust as your flock grows, as the seasons change, or as you try new breeds and find they have different needs than the previous breed you had. That's okay. A few closing suggestions. Keep extra hoses and buckets on hand. You're gonna need them. Okay? Things break. Backups can save your day, especially when it comes to water. In winter, use heated waterers if they work in your climate, or rotate fresh water out often. That is what we do. Thank you, Sauron. But that's what we do. We rotate the water. We just take out fresh water a few times a day. Your ducks still need to dip in winter, okay? So it doesn't matter that it's cold and the ice is frozen. You got to knock that ice out and they got to get in. That's just the way it is. And make it a routine. So morning cleanouts, evening checks, ducks thrive on consistency. They like knowing when their water gets refreshed. So do it on a schedule. Figure out what schedule works for you. It doesn't have to be everyone has to take their ducks water at noon. That might not work for you. So find a schedule that does work for you and stick to it. Because if it's a schedule, the birds will be happier, first of all. But beyond that, it'll also make it easier for you, because once you're in a schedule, it's just nicer. Trust me, schedules make all the difference. But that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Drop a comment below if you found a water setup that works great for your ducks, or if you've had a hilarious water-related duck disaster. Haven't we all had one? We'll see you tomorrow.